All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the Frantic Talks podcast, episode 15. I am your host, Frantic, and I'm here, as always, with my lovely co-host, and his name, of course, is.
Grunt
And we are here to talk about video games and
and
junk.
Junk.
And junk. So, anyways, if you are tuning into this live, thank you for being here. And looks like we have one or two people. So, hello to everybody listening live. This is live every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Twitch at twitch.tv/FranticJ3 the third being number 3 RD. And if you're not listening to this, you're either hearing this the next day afterwards, which is a Sunday, or sometime the week afterwards. Either way, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy what we have to talk about today. We have some fun stuff to talk about. But we are first going to start with the usual, and I will say, Grunt, how was your week?
Uh, Pretty quiet and uneventful. In our last episode, I mentioned that I was helping um, someone.
We don't want to
uh,
mention names.
no, don't want to mention names. I was helping Freak Show, though, with a Griffball map, and we finished it finally. Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
works perfectly. And from the few people we've played it with, it seems to work, and they like it. So I'm happy about that.
Awesome. I actually snuck in and had a hand in helping too.
You did indeed. Thank you for doing the hard work of figuring out all those weird angles of the dome.
Yeah. To give you an idea, you can actually, I was going to mention this here soon, but you can go to a Grunt's blog, which is onyxspartan. Is it WordPress.com?
Yes, it is.
Yep, onyxspartan.wordpress.com, ONYX being Onyx. And you can read his latest update. I think it was, what was it, Mapmaker, something along the lines of that.
Map maker, make me a map.
There you go. And you can see some screenshots and his and Freak Show's thought process through it all. And I kind of just jumped in and said, "Sure, I'll help." And I made a dome out of purple glass. Other than that,
Blue.
they did the rest
It's
of the
blue.
work. Oh, was it blue?
It's blue.
Looked purple to me, but so yeah, that was one day of my week. And I would have to say, for me, the rest of my week was pretty eventful. I played whoops, I just opened up a new tab on the wrong screen. My bad, everybody. I was trying to open up something so I could edit something really quick while I'm in the middle of speaking, and I totally screwed up. Good job, me. Anyways,
Shame on you.
besides helping them out, I played some Magic, and you can probably hear me typing right now because I'm typing something on the screen. So whatever. I played Magic last night actually, and a couple other. It was really just Magic is what I've done this week. I met up with Luke from the Magic side of Frantic Talks, which is the Frantic Talk magic.frantictalks.com. I met up with him this past couple days. He and I have been like putting together a new deck idea, and he's come up with something. I've come up with something, and they're different but similar. And we got to kind of play test them last night with a couple of friends, and our one game lasted 4.5 hours.
Oh, good lord.
And
That.
neither of us ended up winning. I ended up being the first out, and Luke being the second out, so our deck building clearly worked. Um, no, but in all seriousness, it was actually a lot of fun. It started at 7:15ish and ended around 11:45, and that
Man.
was no stopping for food or anything besides getting snacks in between turns. So if you're ever wondering how long it was really funny because the guy who ended up winning, he had his friend invite him over that night, and he was like, "No, I'm going to play Magic." And he said, "Oh, well, how long does a Magic game typically take?" And he said, "About an hour, give or take." That's not true.
3 hours later. Three and a
Yeah,
half hours later.
3.5 hours longer than that. He's sitting there thinking, "Man, I was wrong." It was a little long. Even he leaned over and told me that 2 hours into it. He's like, "I was telling my friend games take like an hour. It's been 2 hours," and I'm like, "Yeah, we're not even done." And uh, if anybody cares, it was basically the reason it kept going was because we just had buttloads of life being gained. So to give you an idea, Luke started at 40 life, and then someone destroyed everything, and he had a card that gained life for everything that got destroyed, based on like stats on the cards, and he went up to 280 something life. And like
Wow.
5 turns later, we knocked him down to like 216, and then Chris played a card that says target player gets life total of 10. So Luke lost like 200 life in one swing. And then I was in the negatives because Chris had a card out that said no one else can lose the game and Chris can't win. It's a really funny card. But he gets this card out, and I'm sitting there at like negative 15 life before we finally destroy that creature. And then it's like, oh, I do actually lose now. It was really funny. It was a lot of fun. And then
That's
once after that, we did our ritual, which is go to Waffle House. And then after that, we decided to go back to Luke's, and we Luke and I just kind of dueled 1v1 with the decks we had and some other stuff, and talked about potential stuff. Didn't even get home till like 4 in the morning last night.
uh,
And I got home, and my girlfriend's still awake doing chores, and I'm like, oh my god, it's 4 in the morning, go to sleep. So needless to say, I'm running on a little less sleep than I normally am running on, but I'll be okay. That was the highlight of my week. The rest of the week was just playing games and doing what I do on a daily basis. I did record a new episode of the Nuzlocke that I've been doing. Episode 9 is not up yet because episode 8 should be coming out today, if memory serves me correctly. It's either today or tomorrow. But that will be coming out today. I must say, I've talked it up a lot in terms of, I think I mentioned episode 8 is where things go bad. That is definitely this episode if you are following along. If not, you can find it at our YouTube channel that has no specific URL because we need 100 subscribers. Entity, hint, hint. But if you search Frantic Talks on YouTube, you should find it as one of the first couple of suggestions. And you'll find the Nuzlocke on there, and you'll also find the podcast, this video version that we record on Twitch. I upload it every Sunday, I believe. So
it's normally when it comes out, Sunday or Monday. It's
yeah,
been
sometimes it's
Sunday.
Monday because Sunday can be busy. It
Yeah,
happens.
it's been Sunday the past couple of weeks. So
I've been able to get back on the Sunday schedule, but sometimes it's Monday. So just keep an eye on it. It'll get posted to iTunes if you search on iTunes Frantic Talks. That's 2 words. You'll find us there. And while we've already mentioned half of our media, we'll just go ahead and throw out the Twitter handles, which are I am at FranticJ3. He's at Onyx Spartan, Onyx spelled ONYX, and then at Frantic Talks is at Frantic_Talks. At Frantic_Talks. That's the Twitter. For the official Frantic Talks Twitter, I'm gonna stop saying Frantic Talks now.
Frantic Talks.
Frantic Talks, Frantic Talks. It's not gonna sound like a word by the time we're done. So you can get us there, and then there's also a Facebook page, facebook.com/Frantic Talks, all one word, and then the main website, which is frantictalks.com, where you can also find the subdomain, which is oh geez, I had like snot building up in my throat. That was gross. The other subdomain is magic.frantictalks.com, where you can read about Magic the Gathering if you're very interested in that, or want to just learn about it and know nothing about it. We've taught Grunt a few things, and he knows nothing about it, so.
Except for what you've taught me. So
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's worth it. I had a thought run through my mind. I know you don't actually. So when we record this, I want to tell everybody. Grunt can't actually see me because the software I use to record it has to take over my webcam. So I can see him, but he can't see me. So he doesn't see all the things I do. Yeah, so I can see him waving right now, but he can't see me doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is moving this water bottle back and forth on the screen. And I had this thought the other day. Every podcast I've been drinking out of the same water bottle. So I think either two things. One is people are probably wondering what is he drinking, or two, why is he drinking the same thing over and over again? And to answer your question that you probably didn't have, it is just sparkling water. Nothing special. It's H2O with some carbonation. All right.
all right.
Brought to you in part by Vintage Seltzer Water. Buy it at your local Whole Foods.
All
They're gonna
right
call me
then.
in like a week and be like, "Hey, you want a sponsorship?" And I'm gonna be like, "Oh yeah." No, they're not. I'm gonna get my
Yeah,
hopes up for
sure.
that. I do want to say if you have any feedback to the podcast, you can definitely leave it on the website or in the YouTube comments on the video, or even on Twitch if we're watching the live chat, which we are right now. I did tweak my microphone setting. I noticed in a lot of the recordings, I thought I was a little quieter than I should be, so I've upped the pickup rate to where it like actually catches my voice a little more. But I've also removed background noise. It's kind of cool how I did it. I watched a couple YouTube videos, not to jerk myself off for any reason. I just want to say that I changed my microphone settings. So if I sound louder, if I start peeking out or something like that, and you notice it, definitely let us know. You can tweet at us as well. I just want to make sure it all sounds good, which I think it does. I recorded the Nuzlocke episode like this and listened through it. It seemed fine. So
I would explain why you sound a little bit clearer now.
yeah, I like I said, I upped the way it catches my voice in the Windows settings, and then in the recording software, I can actually set it to where it waits a couple seconds before it hears something. So if I have like a fan going in the background, or if there's some sort of background noise like from like my window or something, like wind coming through, it'll wait to pick up the noise as long as it's a steady, like a loud enough pitch, which is me talking. So when I'm
Oh,
looking
it's
at my
actually
levels, when I stop talking, my microphone goes dead silent. So it's pretty sweet.
that's that's actually really cool.
Yay, audio engineering that I know nothing about.
I just went and bought a blue snowball microphone.
Oh, really?
So Yep. Well, I mean, I've actually had it for like since the second episode because when you came to me and asked, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I've always wanted to do one of those."
Hmm.
And on the first episode, I used an old pair of what are they? Hold on here. Uh, Turtle Beach X12 headsets for the original Xbox,
The
the
360.
360. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the audio for me was pretty pretty garbage.
I'll say pretty okay.
Yeah, it was okay. Um, but after that, I'm like, all right, I really need to buy a new microphone so I can be heard clearly and not feel like I'm having to yell into the microphone.
Hmm.
So I went out, bought from I think it was Amazon or wherever it was, Blue Snowball microphone.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's pretty fancy. It's red light is glaring at me right now. So
Yeah, speaking of awesome microphones to purchase, I'm actually going to show you guys. I think Grunt is actually wearing the same headset I just purchased. He's in the stream right now. It looks like he is wearing this headset right here, and I'm not going to advertise it. I'm just going to point out that I just received the XO4s from Turtle Beach. That seems about right. Is that what you're wearing?
yep,
How are you able to get that to work as a microphone, or are you just using it as a headset?
I just use it as a headset
Okay, I was supposed to say,
because
because
I
I
just
couldn't
plug
get
it.
it to work as a microphone.
Yeah,
I really wanted it to.
I haven't figured out how to do that. I don't even know if you can do that, but I just have it plugged into my audio jack on my laptop.
Makes sense. Yeah, I can totally do
Because
that. I just don't have the microphone like you're talking about, which is the next thing I'm gonna get, and then I'll be good to go.
yeah, because the great thing about this microphone too, there's no fancy cables or anything. It's just a USB cord.
Yeah, and
So
I wanna talk about that really quick. And we always spend like the first 15 minutes of these things talking about random crap, but that's what the junk's for. It's good that we know that.
and junk.
Yeah, it's video games and junk. This is actually related to video games though. So I bought this headset. I will not speak price as not needed. I bought this headset, and I was used to the X32s or 31s, the wireless ones that they had that were, I want to say it was 31s. They were wireless and they ran on batteries, which was kind of annoying because I had to keep buying batteries or do rechargeables. But if you start using rechargeables for too long, they start dying slowly. So I was doing a lot of gaming when I got these things, and I bought them, and how they worked was I had to connect them via like all the auxiliary cables and plug it into the back of my Xbox. And I had to get a specific adapter from GameStop because I had an HDMI port and it was all this fancy stuff. So I buy these thinking I'm probably gonna have to go through the same thing. So I'll buy them, see how they hook up, and figure it out. I figured since I was using the standard setups for the Xbox One, which is like an HDMI cord and the standard controller, nothing special, I should be fine. I'm not using like an outdated Xbox One or anything. Well, I grabbed them and they come with like a really small micro USB cord, which I'm going to show you right here. It is, I think, probably a 5-inch cord. It can fit on my webcam here. I couldn't even wrap it around my neck to choke myself, which is nice, just in case I get suicidal. It comes with this little cord, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, so it's a rechargeable battery type thing. And it says all you have to
Nope.
do is plug it into your Xbox, and I'll show you the brick on the bottom of my Xbox here, or controller. It's this bit right here, if you can see it. If you can't see it, if you have an Xbox One controller with the standard Xbox headset, it's basically the same thing that plugs into the bottom. It's just got a bunch of different controls, and it says plug the micro USB into the top of your Xbox controller because there's a micro USB on top of the controller, and then plug it into your Xbox. And there on the left side of the Xbox there is a USB port. So I do that, and then I plug the headset in, and then it says turn your Xbox on, and it'll just update. And I'm sitting here thinking that's weird. So I turn on my
Nope.
Xbox, and it says hold on, your controller needs an update. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Update it, and it works. There's no batteries. It's blowing my mind right now that I don't have to throw batteries into a headset for it to work. It just connects and works. It's
Yep.
pretty freaking sweet, if you ask me, to be honest.
Yep. Exactly. Fun fact: when I first got the same headset,
Hmm.
I it, I had basically the same instructions that you did, but it didn't really tell me that the controller was going to need an update because I plugged it in. I'm like, okay, well, what does this do?
Hmm.
Plugged it in like you did. It didn't tell me I needed an update. It didn't say I was going to need an update, and I plugged the headset in, tried to use it, and it didn't work. And I'm like, well, what's going on here? And I did some research and found out that you have to update your controller's firmware
Oh, is that
first.
what it is? Firmware? Okay.
Yep,
I guess that makes
yep.
sense.
So you basically got everything to do it for you. I had to do it the old-fashioned way. Not that
Good
I'm
old
complaining
fashioned way.
about that. I mean, it may sound like it, but I'm not. I'm just you're sharing your story. I'm
No,
sharing
no, you're
my
good.
experience. So
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about something similar to firmware, I was actually going to go into the Halo update, but I'm going to talk about something a little different. So on the screen this whole time I've had the Halo waypoint site, but we're going to go to a Polygon website. This was noted on the Guardian, which is a United Kingdom web magazine. We're going to get into actual content now instead of talking randomly. Um, if I don't know if you heard, but this past week Microsoft had announced their UWP, which stands for the Microsoft Universal Windows Platform (UWP). The idea behind this is to, from what I understand, and I could be slightly off base on this, but from what I've read and what I can understand, it's kind of a way to merge consoles, PCs, tablets that are all running some sort of Windows-based system together. So essentially, the best way I can describe this in the way that makes sense to me, and I believe is how it works, is your Xbox, your PC, and your phone could all share the same apps and games and similar ideas. Now, obviously, running like Gears of War, which is the picture up here is why I use it. Running like Gears of War on your phone is probably not going to be a thing, but it's something to where the Windows Store is going to be kind of like universal more than it already is. And it sounds interesting. It sounds cool that we might be able to bridge the gap between consoles. And I'm getting a phone call. But to bridge the gap, I don't know if you heard that song. It's "My Girl Wants to Party All the Time" by Eddie Murphy. I'm not ashamed. We're gonna get back to what I was saying. But anyways, the idea, from what it seems, is they're trying to bridge the gap between consoles and PC, and that's something that I feel like eventually just needs to happen because the segregation of it all can be it can be good and bad, and that's a different topic to talk about. But that's what I've understood is they're trying to do. And so the co-founder of Epic, which is the studio that makes Gears of War, he came out and said that they're trying to monopolize game making, which is the big headline you can see on the screen if you're watching the stream. They are trying to monopolize game making on Windows 10, supposedly. Now, this is purely speculation on his part, but everything that he is speculating this on has truth to it. So, the best way I can describe this without getting too over my own head and over possibly your head, anybody else listening, is that with this system, you basically have to go through the Windows Store in order to be used on a Windows computer. So the way we play games now on a computer, if you're a part of the 99%, is Steam. You get on Steam, you download a game that you've bought via the Steam store, or that you've a lot of people even do it this way, where they buy a game that isn't even on Steam, and then you can run it through Steam, which is a thing you can do, and you play it through that, and that's just how it works. You play your games through there. It's kind of like the Xbox Store, but it's on PC. It's the centralized version of PC, and you can have friends and stuff on there, and it's like Xbox Live. And that's how the majority of people do it. Now there's other platforms like Ubisoft's Uplay and or Origin for EA, and I feel like there's one other one that I'm forgetting about. But they're kind of the minority where they're just like we're not going to sell our games to Steam unless they're like 10-year-old games because money. So what this would do, from what I've read, is basically make it to where you can't play those games unless they're on the Windows market. Now, I could be wrong in stating that. I could be slightly off, but from what I read, it was basically there's a way you can set it to where it doesn't rely on the Windows Store in your registry. But that's really hard to do if you don't know what you're doing. I don't even know how to do that. I know how to look at my registry. I don't know how to edit it with the appropriate terms and stuff. So it's over my head. I'm sure it's over many of your heads that are listening. It's something very technical, and it is, like he is saying, it's potentially monopolizing. So what happens is you have to submit your game or app or anything that you want on Windows through the Windows Store. And that's if you want to play anything on Windows. Well, you don't have to submit your game. You have to get a game from the Windows Store to play a game on a Windows platform. So the best example that I can give this, or the best what would be the right term? Comparison, I guess, is the iOS store. You basically can't get anything on your phone, your Apple phone, without jailbreaking it that isn't in the iOS store. It's pretty much how that works. So that's the same. It's the same idea essentially. It's just Apple is not the main place to go play PC games. That's why no one's ever really cared. They've just kind of been like, oh, you're going to use your Apple phone. Well, I guess yeah, you're going to get apps for the Apple phone. Makes sense because it's a
Right.
different language essentially.
Right.
So
Uh,
that's the issue, and he's not even he's saying this is speculation, and he knows people who are trying to do their best at Microsoft to do the right thing, but he's also stated that there are people who he knows that kind of just do what they're told to do, and someone could easily manipulate this to where they monopolize it to the sense of, like I said, you can't necessarily play a game on Windows 10 or
right.
any Windows platform here out without being on the Windows market. And the really crappy part about it, in my mind, is that in order to sell anything on the Windows market, Microsoft will take 30% of whatever you sell. So that's even rougher in terms of, oh, I want to make a game. I'll only ever make 70% of what it's worth because I have to sell it through Microsoft. I can't just be an independent seller because I have to go through them. And that's, that's a monopoly and they can set stuff like that.
Hmm. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I hope it doesn't go that way just for the sake of, the game industry, but it's
Yeah,
hard to say.
it's
Right
hard to
now,
say if it'll even happen. They might get rid of that feature or rid of that registry entry. I don't exactly know how it would work
right,
on the Windows OS. I'm not familiar enough with the Windows operating system language. I'm not familiar with it at all, besides knowing where my folders are.
right.
I understand what makes it work, but that's about it.
Yeah, when it comes to really technical computer stuff, I just let Grunt Dad take care of that stuff. I know the basics of what to do, but when you get to talking about stuff like registry, and he doesn't even mess around in that stuff because he knows if you make a wrong mistake, you have a broken computer now.
And Brock in the comments, he just mentioned stories that Nintendo had specific third parties locked out because of a chip that can only run their games on the NES or something like that. I'm trying to make sure what he's saying. But yeah, it's not like this isn't the first time someone's attempted this. I'm not
Yeah, it
surprised at all.
kind of uh, reminds me of the DRM, Digital Rights Management.
Yep, that is
Uh,
definitely still a thing in certain
um,
cases.
when the Xbox One originally released, the whole having to connect to the internet once a day to verify that you actually owned a game.
Yeah.
Um, Proof that Microsoft can change your policies in an instant is the fact that they got rid of it.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the downside when talking about it from the Xbox perspective is we lost a lot of really cool features that would be nice to have nowadays looking back at it. But, do you really you bought you bought the game, you bought the game. You paid $60 for it out of your paycheck because you wanted
Hmm.
the game. Do you really, think you should have to connect to the internet to verify that you bought the game?
Yeah. I mean,
Just so you
I
can have
understand trying to stop piracy.
oh yeah, down with piracy. Forget that.
Hmm.
Buy your game, support the developer.
Absolutely.
Um, Different subject.
Unless it's EA. I'm just kidding.
Uh,
And screw
so
EA. I just want to throw that out there.
I
Sorry to
mean,
interrupt. Continue.
they're 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 iffy for me. I like their games, but
That's
their
it.
policies are a little strange.
That's what happens when you get big old corporation running a video game company that doesn't know anything about video games.
All right. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the future. That's all I can really say about it because I don't know much of anything about the UWP. You just told me about it.
Right.
Uh,
Like it's something I learned
Definitely
about a
before this.
couple days
So
ago, and then read up on it before this podcast because I saw this making headlines on like the subreddits I was browsing, and I was like, seems like it's something really relevant to talk about. So,
yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
hmm
How is it necessarily going to affect even people like me who play primarily on a console? Are we going to have to be able to buy games directly through the micro or the Xbox store now, or
it could very well be that, and that would
because
mean you'd have to buy their system with a bigger hard drive.
yeah, we all know what we think about that.
Yeah, that's. I love
Uh,
Halo, but when they
oh
throw
yeah,
me a 4 GB update every month, I'm gonna run out of room really quick.
oh yeah, definitely. Um, and doing something like that is going to really alienate your retail stores.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I mean,
Eh,
that's how I buy a lot of my games yet. Still, even on the new system, is I see a game I want. I either, if I really want it, I buy it when it comes out, or I go and wait a couple months or even a year later and buy it when I can find a used copy for $30 or $20.
Mhm.
Can't necessarily buy that $20-$30 game off of the digital store when they're still charging like a 2-year old game $60 for it.
Yeah. I don't. It's very rare, I would say, but I don't browse the marketplace enough to know. But I feel like it's very rare that it would drop below 30, even
Right.
for an older game. But you can go to like a GameStop and buy it for like 10 or $20, or a local game shop in general. Like it's not just GameStops, but there's a lot of local shops around here that sell games for cheap.
Right. We've got a couple smaller stores in this area, but getting a little sidetracked here, I found that their prices are a little higher than GameStop. So,
Yeah, there's a couple of things that go behind that. So
and yeah, I totally understand why it probably is a thing, but
yeah, it's pretty much economies of scale in a sense where it's like the more you
right,
can get, the cheaper you can get rid of it.
right,
So like if a store can only get its hands on 5 copies of Left 4 Dead and then another store can get its hands on 15, then they could sell the 15 of them at a slightly lower price. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So,
But that is something to be aware of that could be happening in some way. It's something to keep your eye on. I imagine they will probably, if everyone sees this and reacts the way that they did when they heard about the DRM and everything similar to that, then you can basically expect them to back out of it like they did with the DRMs and with the whole Xbox One as an entertainment system first, video game console second. Because I was actually reading another article about that earlier today, where it was just like looking back, has it done? What has it done? And they're basically still trying to be an entertainment system, but focusing more on the games, even though they already alienated like 50% of their fan base.
right,
So Halo's there
yeah.
though. That's why we're here.
Hey, what?
I keep
People play
mentioning
Halo?
Halo. Yeah, I keep mentioning it. I feel like I should go into it.
Well then,
So let's do this
let's go into it.
lovely way of segueing into the original thing I had up on the screen, which is the Halo Waypoint update, The Road Ahead, where they are talking about the upcoming updates and also mentioning a couple other things, but mainly the upcoming updates, which I'm going to just scroll down and show you this picture here. So it shows us here that we've had 4 updates since we started back in, what, like November? Something like
I
that?
think it would have been November was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was the Battle of Shadow and Light, followed by the Cartographer's Gift, which gave us Forge Mode, and the Infinity's Armory, which gave us.
Stuff.
Wasn't it a big team battle?
I think it was. I think it was.
Sounds about right. And then Hammerstorm, which gave us Griffball, one that we talked about quite a lot last week because we know our things about Griffball. And then
Just a little bit.
just a little bit. We know a little bit about it. And we only made a map for it. That's all we do.
Hmm, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. The, and it shows us the next 4, or potentially 3. We'll mention. We'll talk about in a second. It's Ghosts of Meridian. The Meridian was the city where um, it had like the AI running it. I forget the AI's name in the storyline in the story mode.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't remember the dude's
uh,
name. But it was an AI, and then spoiler alert, turns out he was kind of a dick. That's actually not a
totally.
spoiler alert. He's a dick when you meet him, but.
He totally is. Yeah.
And then there's Memories of Reach, which has a picture of George the Spartan. Looks awesome. And then Hogwild, which I know nothing about Ghost of Meridian, Memories of Reach, or Hogwild. All I know is that at some point we get the last one, Warzone Firefight, which I thought was gonna. Yeah, thumbs up there, Grunt. Thumbs up, because Firefight's awesome. I thought that would be coming with like Memories of Reach or something, but it looks like it might be its own update. But at the same time, when I'm analyzing this picture and I'm being nitpicky, if you look at this picture on the left, everything's got a green border at the very top. If you look at the picture on the right, it's all blue until you get to the Warzone firefight where there's no blue above it. Hashtag conspiracies. No, it's either going to be its own update or with another update. Who actually cares? We'll find out. these three and or four, these 3 or 4 are coming each month. So next month, or technically March, or was yeah, it's March. Technically, the March update should be Ghost of Meridian, which will be probably at the end of the month. And then Memories of Reach will be April, Hogwild May, and then Warzone Firefight June if that's when it comes. Hashtag conspiracy.
Yes.
Read that right when you hit enter. Anyways,
What?
we're definitely excited to see what's coming from all of these. The main thing we want to talk about is Warzone Firefight. Now, Grunt went on a ramble on Twitter like he does about what.
I I'm not sure how I should take that.
Oh, it's totally. I just wanted to pick on you for a second there. It's totally fine that you
It's
do those
totally
things.
fine because I myself admit I do the same thing. So every single time. So if you start following me on Twitter based on a podcast, be warned, you're going to see a lot of tweets from me most likely.
I tweet about like politics and video games and magic, just sometimes politics, because that's normally what's on my mind. Because I'm not an interesting individual.
I mean,
But
yeah, neither am I. So
neither of those things are true. But Warzone Firefight. Grunt had mentioned in his tweet. Well, I'll let him mention it in his voice. That was bad.
all right.
Go ahead.
uh, well, last night I was sitting there. I was playing with a friend, and he ditched me to go do something else. Not holding that against you. Totally holding that against you. Um,
He will remember.
he will remember. Um,
It's like Walking Dead. Grunt will remember that.
oh my god, that's it. I'm done.
Just tweet at
Uh,
just tweet at him. You left me last night. Grunt will remember that.
oh god. Um, but I was sitting there. I just bought a couple bronze wreck packs, and I was sitting there selling off the pointless junk that I needed because why do I really need 31 shotguns?
Couldn't come in
And
handy.
exactly. And I noticed that on the bottom of the screen, underneath the last like row of wrecks that it lists, it gives the name of what you have highlighted. So, for example, the shotgun I had highlighted when I was selling like 30 of them. It said it was a shotgun and then gave a brief description of what it was. It was like some plain, boring, close quarters weapon, blah blah blah, whatever. And then I highlighted some of the other ones that are legendary and ultra rare and all that stuff, and it gave the description of what they are and what they do. Like one sword on there is the Arbiter's sword that you see during when you encounter him in the game. It gives active camo and a longer lunge range or something like that. But that got me to thinking about Warzone Firefighting coming out later in the year. And Warzone, Firefight, requisitions for Warzone, it just makes perfect sense to use them. That's one thing I really hope to see in there, in Firefight when it's released, is the ability to use your requisitions. Because what's the point of, playing Warzone Firefight if you can't use something like that?
Yeah. I definitely think since it's prefaced with Warzone that they will be allowing you to use requisitions. Because
Right,
if it wasn't prefaced with that, it would be pointless to even be said. Because Warzone is
right,
where those rec packs are.
right, exactly. Let me see. I'm going to bring up the tweets here because I was sitting there after I originally tweeted that I would like to see that stuff used. Um, And then I'm like, well, how are you going to use requisitions when they have levels on them? Um, and I'm like, well, I don't know much about gameplay, but here's how I would think it would work. I'll even read this tweet. But how do you make it so your recs are obtainable? Also left out the word "are" in that tweet. Whoops, that's going to annoy me now.
I
Um,
wish you could edit tweets.
I know. Get to it, Twitter or TweetDeck.
Either
Uh,
or.
and then my fix to that: have it to where you earn a rec level each set. Bam, problem solved. So
Yeah.
you might have to help me along with this, Frantic, because it's been a while since I played Warzone game mode.
Hey, me too. We'll wing it.
But we'll wing it. But when you, to unlock the next level of requisitions that you can use, you start at what is it? Level 1 you can use?
Yes, which is pretty much AR and Magnum, but you can have like there's a couple of level 1 ARs that are slightly different, like long shot AR is
Right.
something I unlocked.
Right. I got a stabilization one the other day. It's got,
Those are great because they don't recoil.
yeah. Also got a silenced BR with a optic sight or something like that.
I'm jealous that you got a silenced BR. I
I'm
just have a
pretty sure.
I have a silenced assault rifle, which is cool, but I want a silenced BR.
Yeah, I'm pretty anxious to give that a shot. But back on point here. So when you know as you're playing the game, you slowly progress towards the next level, just overall.
Mhm.
But it's accelerated for getting kills and basically how well your team does, right?
Yeah.
So how would you incorporate something like that into firefight? Because you start at level 1, you can use a fuel rod at level 4, but how do you
Like reset
move
it.
right? How do you
Um,
move forward?
so I have a couple ideas. First one, I like the recommendation. Now it doesn't each set have like 3 or 4 rounds,
Um
or
Firefight from ODST, and I think it was like classic firefight in Reach. There were originally, this is talking about ODST because I played the living daylights out of that one.
yeah.
Um, you have one set which is composed of 3 rounds, which is composed of 5 waves. So you fight through 5 waves and you complete a round. You complete 3 rounds. That's one set. So by the time you have moved on to set like two, from 1 to 2, you've finished 15 waves. So
Right.
that's basically how that works, how that worked. But yeah, it's sets and rounds and whatnot.
Well, here's what I think. So in Halo Reach with Firefight, what they did was they had a playlist where you could play through it, and you essentially played through like like a set was all you did in matchmaking and Firefight for Reach, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So you ended up facing off however many waves that is in those settings.
I think it was for matchmaking settings. It was like one set made up a game,
Yeah,
so three
which
rounds.
3 rounds, yeah. So you ended up facing, like you said, 15 waves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I was thinking originally was, yeah, by the time you get to the fourth set, you can have power weapons, but at that point, you've already fought through so much stuff that the power weapons might be underwhelming at that point. It's like, I need something really big to finish off everything.
Right, and that's the downside. I thought of about that method later on
Hmm.
because you know on some maps back in ODST they would have it to where you would face like a wraith in like the third wave of the first set.
Hmm.
So you had to either board the wraith and destroy it the old-fashioned way with a grenade down the top, or you had to hopefully, they had like Spartan lasers and rocket launchers and that placed on the map, so you had to use one of those, or you had to rely on something the enemies dropped, which created another idea for me, and I'll discuss that later in a bit.
So, if I remember correctly, there are 10 rec levels. That sound right? It's 9 or 10. It's one of the two.
9 or 10. I've only gotten to like 6
The
or
highest I've ever
7.
gotten is 8, but I've never had anything above 7, so it doesn't matter for me. But some of
Right,
the higher up, like legendary, like tanks or snipers or something, are like way up there.
right.
Uh, it could be something where your rec level resets every set,
That would actually be kind of interesting.
so you could get to the highest rec level you could get to by killing stuff and getting. Like I'm pretty sure the more medals you obtain is how your rec level goes up, which is
Right.
why if that's which is why when we were playing the one time it was Yumi and Freak Show, I ended up being at level 3 before you guys were at level 3, which it was like you needed like 1 or 2 kills and I had just gotten into it. So each person gets to each level close to the same time, but it's not all at the same time. It's based on
Right.
how your team is doing and how you are individually doing, which I honestly think is really dumb because that means you need to get better weapons to beat the people who are beating you, but the people who are beating you already have the better weapons. But
Right.
long-winded rants aside, I think that what they are doing right now is figuring out exactly what we are talking about, and trying to draw it right here in front of me to see how these things work exactly. And in my mind, there's no easy way to distribute it besides just letting you go through your progressions
Hmm.
and just seeing what you can get. But I'm pretty
Right.
sure the deeper into sets you get, the the better the enemies are. So if they're going to do a true four set method, how I would do it is um, set 1, you start at level 1, set 2, you start at level 2, set 3, you start at level 3, set 4, you start at level 4. That way, the harder the sets get, the better weapons you start off having
That actually is
access to.
a really good idea. I like that one.
Hmm.
Because my other idea was have it to where it's like what you just mentioned, how basic Warzone works is have it to where the progression of your rec level is related to the kills, um, medals, assists, and that stuff that you gather while you're still alive, and then basically have it reset when you like die or at the end of a round or wave or set whatever.
Yeah,
I
they got to
now
be
that I
careful resetting it if you die, though, because
yeah
the
now that
enemies
I
get harder.
yeah now that I think about it, uh it doesn't having it reset when you die is really dumb because you have a whole bunch of the large Promethean enemies coming after you, and your entire team gets killed over and over again.
Hmm.
And you're at rec level 1 where you have like a laser at rec level 5 or 6, whatever it is, and that's the only thing left to kill. So
Right.
maybe have it to where it's tied in a little bit with how well you do.
Hmm.
Maybe earn it to where, or have it to where you rank quicker if you haven't died. So, because it's fairly easy to blow through waves of enemies in
Hmm.
firefight. Different game, different rule set for firefight. So, it's hard to say how that would work, but I don't know. I'm curious as to how it will work because basically I just want to use my Warzone requisitions in firefight.
Yeah. And I'm sure they'll find out a unique way to integrate it. I think what they'll end up doing is just having one round or one set be. I would hope they would do playlists. So you can't really do a custom game firefight based in Warzone when you would use rec packs and not get any requisition points for playing a custom game of firefight. So if they did
Right.
do end up doing custom games for firefights, it would just be like random weapon spawns like they used to do.
Right.
But if they do it in
And
matchmaking, I would want them to do two things. I would want the actually three things. I would want there to be a standard firefight where you go in and play one round or one set, which is 3 rounds, which have 5 waves, so 15 waves. You end up starting at rec level 1 and going up as high as you can. That would be the standard one that most people would play. I would want
right.
them to do the solo playlist from Reach because I loved that playlist. It was basically it's just you go in and you pick a bunch of game modes that have been designed for more solo based ones. The one everybody picked that I knew of was Grunt Apocalypse, where Grunt Birthday Party was on and it was just you, a DMR, and a bunch of grunts. And it was pretty easy to beat every single time. You got a decent amount of credits, got a decent amount of experience, which were the same thing at that time. And
Right.
you could slowly build up the commendation for headshots and firefight. That was my favorite one to do while I was waiting on a friend to get out of a game. It took like 5 minutes. And then the third one I would want them to do is like the full-on marathon version where you play all 4 sets and we do what we just described, or whatever they decide to do with the rec levels, where you start at 1 in set 1, rec level 2 in set 2, 3, and then
Right.
4, and you build up from there to get your best weapons to call them in to beat the really hard to kill enemies.
Right.
I think that's what I would prefer them to do. That would give that would just be really awesome for people who are starting to tire of the PvP and tire of the campaign because that's all they have at this point.
Right. And I know for a fact that when Warzone Firefight comes out, I my playtime for Halo 5 will increase exponentially, especially if they pull it off the right way.
Hmm.
Um,
I'll definitely be excited for it, and I'll probably end up playing it with you a bunch of times.
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure about that because I like what they did with Warzone as it is in the game now, where it's the PvP and PvE concepts both or modes both mashed up together.
Hmm.
Um, so I like that, and at times I just want to go shoot aliens in the face. I don't want to go shoot a guy who lives on the other side of the world that's trying to shoot me with a battle rifle. I just want to go
I want to
shoot
shoot things
aliens
from
in the
other
face.
worlds. Come on,
Yeah,
Halo.
yeah. I mean, the flood, the
Yeah.
Prometheans flood
Speaking of
aren't
the
actually in this
flood, when
game.
are we gonna get the flood? I'm wondering when they'll come back.
I hope I hope soon.
Yeah.
I'm kind of missing it, missing
As
them.
weird as that is, because I never liked them, but as soon as they were gone, I somehow missed them. It's the
It,
one bit of the game where it's just like you know you didn't know you wanted it till it was gone. I think.
right. I think the biggest reason why people didn't like them is because probably mostly from a design point, it's basically just zombies. Oh wow, haven't
It's
had
a
those in a few
unique way
games.
of doing zombies. I think.
It's a unique way of doing it. By the time we got to Halo 3, they were just pushing the different enemy types a little too much. I mean, ones that can crawl up on a wall and shoot you with like a auto spike rifle or whatever. No, come on. But the reason why people want them back is because you think Halo, you think of Master Chief, Cortana, Elites, basically the entire Covenant, and then you have the Flood. That's like that weird family member that you really don't want to associate with. Maybe a bad way of describing them, but
I think that's about right. I was gonna say redheaded stepchild when I first thought of it, so we're on the
I
same
mean,
plane of thinking.
pretty much, yeah.
So yeah,
So,
that'll come eventually. Warzone Firefight. To get back on topic, that should come soon. Next couple of months, maybe in the next month or two. The screenshot looks like they've already made some good progress.
oh yeah,
So here's hoping. Like I'd love to see it within the next 2 months, but realistically, it might be the last update we get of the four they've mentioned.
right.
So we'll have to see.
I'm hoping if it is that, it doesn't take them long. I totally get game development isn't easy. Problems happen and they need to delay things.
Hmm.
Um, but I hope that that doesn't happen and it's not like pushed back longer than what we'll already have to wait for it because I just I want to play the game right now. My interest is in Halo 5. Coming back to it, I need that to keep me interested in it
Hmm.
because I said it in podcasts before. I really didn't enjoy the campaign, and now the only time I really play it is to play the multiplayer with friends. So,
Yeah, I find myself not wanting to do too much in terms of solo multiplayer. Like
right.
the only playlist I can jump into solo is SWAT, and that's just because I don't know if I've said it before, but I'm decent enough at SWAT that I can typically either win or just narrowly lose because that's
Mm-hmm.
just how it is. Which funny story, I don't know if you were in the party at the time, but I was playing SWAT. No, it was me, Freak Show, and I think it was I don't remember who the third person was, but they were in the party with us. That was Crowbar. This guy named Mr. Crowbar, I'm pretty sure. None of you know him. Um, we were in a party together, and then I jumped into SWAT, and then it matched me up on H2O Camper on his team in SWAT. So
Oh,
H2O Camper is the founder of
nice.
he's the founder of Griffball Hub. For those of you who don't know, I think he sold it to Goose and Cal, who run it now, like 2 years ago or so. But he was the founder and creator of it, and it matched me on his team. I was like, oh, cool. Next game, nobody I know of. Next game, back on his team again. I was like, interesting. So at the end of the game, I tweeted at him and said, hey, apparently I'm supposed to be on your team tonight. Next game, he's on the other team. And he tweets at me, oh, you spoke too soon. And I'm like, yep, you're right. Next game, he's on the other team. Next game, he's on the other team. I shit you not. Of the 7 games I played, 5 of them, he was in the game, 2 on my team, 3 on the other team. Pretty
Oh
weird.
man.
And he wasn't even in a party with anybody, so it just kept being me and him and then other random people, and they just kept matching us. It was really weird.
Oh man. That is odd.
Yes, Team Frantic with a K. SWAT
Capital
champions.
K. Capital K.
Speaking of the Twitch chat, I hadn't mentioned it yet, but Brock brought up when I said Grunt will remember that, which is also going to be the name of this podcast episode. He brought up that if you skip the credits in the Tales from the Borderlands uh, series, it'll just say Telltale will remember that, and that's awesome.
It will. It does say that. I found that out. I found that out by accident. Actually, I dropped my controller after completing the game and somehow managed to grab it and hit the A button to skip the cutscene or skip the credits. And it's like, oh, I skipped the credits. Telltale will remember that. Oh, now I'm sad because I feel like a jerk for skipping them.
I think that's what they are meant to do.
I mean,
That's great. I'm glad that they do that. So,
oh yeah,
gonna jump back into the Halo Waypoint because there's still a little bit left in it. There's not too much. The social playlist for the week is Fiesta, which I forced Grunt into playing last night, and we didn't win a single game, which was great.
It was still fun though.
Oh, Fiesta is by far one of my favorite game modes to
Oh
play.
yeah, yeah.
If you don't know what it is, it's just you spawn with two random weapons, and those weapons can be useless or awesome. Uh, I know I had a majority awesome, a few useless last night. I feel like you guys, most of the team that we had, there were four of us. I think you guys had mostly useless. 'Cause I kept hearing,
Um,
"Oh, Magnum pistol." It's like pistol and plasma rifle, and I'm like, yeah, that's not good, or whatever you would spawn with.
yeah. I spawned with. At one point, I spawned with a light rifle and a shotgun. I
That's
got
not
like
bad.
one kill. It wasn't bad, no, but the other team had rockets and sniper rifles and
Binary
fuel
rifles.
rods at that point, so it didn't go too well for me.
Yeah, I think my quote of the night was I spawned with a sniper and I'm like, oh hell yeah, sniper, time to die, and then I traded headshots with a guy immediately
Yep,
because he had a sniper.
yep,
And
I remember
it
that.
was great to it was really funny to watch the kill feed when I said I'm like, oh hell yeah, sniper, time to die. Frantic J3 killed this person with a sniper headshot. This person killed Frantic J3 with a headshot. It's like, god damn it.
Why?
It was funny. But that is the social playlist. I must say I am enjoying that they have the social playlist, but I don't like the matchmaking features of it in terms of matching me with people who are close to my skill level. Because there isn't a CSR, I don't know if they actually match you up with people who have a skill level. I think it just puts you into a game with random people. Because I found in the social playlist that I've gotten into, I don't actually think I've won a game if unless it's Griffball.
Right.
I want to say I've won maybe one game. Like I went into a big team battle with a couple of my buddies that I know in real life, and the first game we went into, me and one of my buddies both had 30 plus kills in this capture the flag match. The rest of our team had less than 10, and we lost so hard. And then we jumped into another one where we were doing Slayer and ended up losing. Yeah, I don't think I've won in an honestly I haven't. If it's been a social playlist that isn't Griffball, I have yet to win a game in them.
Well, that's interesting.
Because I did the social capture the flag when it came out, and I lost the only game I played in that. No, I didn't win it though. I didn't lose it. I drew. It's not a win, and it's not a loss. I ended up drawing on that game, and then everything else I've lost. It's pretty sad. I'm now sad that I lose games. Not really sad. I actually don't care. It's a social playlist. The whole point is just to have fun. And each game I had a good amount of fun besides the typical raging at the game. But you know,
That happens for anyone. I mean, yeah.
oh, that's talking about CSR. I thought I was literally just skimming over the part in the update that talks about where they're changing that, but it's talking about CSR. But they go on to talk about ranking distribution of the CSR and more, and they're um, trying to reflect the actual scale of the population playing in each uh,
Ranked
playlist,
playlist.
which they started at the March season, so whatever that means. I've
Which,
found when I jump into the ranked playlist, I win a game and then I lose a game, and then I win a game and then I lose a game. Very rarely do I win back to back.
right, that's. I don't think I've played a ranked game really since Halo 3
Hmm.
because I don't play multiplayer that much to begin with. Um, and what other games that I've played the multiplayer don't have ranking, like a ranking system in it. So yeah, that pretty much sounds about how my ranking would
Hmm.
go. Win a game, lose a game.
I think when I have a team, I do a little better. Like when we do a breakout, I tend to win more than I lose in breakout.
Oh yeah,
But if I go solo into SWAT, it's pretty much I win a game, we did really well, jump into the next game feeling good and just get decimated. Jump into the next game
right,
like I really want to win one. It's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good now, and then you get decimated again. So I don't know what
right,
that is. Maybe it tries to put you with people who have already won, or maybe everybody just experiences a win loss, so they just pair them up with a win loss.
right.
That would make no sense, but
If it can be of any example, um, matching people up based on wins, current wins and losses doesn't work. Just look at Destiny's Trials of Osiris.
yeah, that's that's just a dumb way of matching people.
I mean, yeah,
Which, if you don't know how it works, like you said, it just pairs you based on the exact same record that you
right.
have.
So
So
yeah, if you're sitting at 5 wins and 0 losses on your current Trials card, you're going to most likely match another team that has 5 wins and 0 losses.
Hmm.
So it's it's a good way of promoting the competitive spirit that Trials is supposed to be, but I just don't think it works as intended because we've
No,
gotten to like 6 or 7 wins when we've played and 0 losses. Well, 1 loss, I should say, using our
theoretically.
mercy, which
Yeah.
basically gives you your first with the mercy boon in Trials of Osiris. You are basically given a free loss, so your first loss will be redeemed, meaning you still have those 3 other losses before you're eliminated.
Hmm.
So if you buy the boon, you have 4 losses, 4 losses before you're technically eliminated. And we've won like 2 3 games and then lost a game and then have won several more, gotten up to like 5 or 6 wins, and then we've played teams that definitely don't seem like they're at their fifth or sixth win.
Yeah.
So
It's a crappy system in my mind, and they should do
right,
something to change it, but I don't know what it would
right,
be. I feel
right.
like they should
So
just take your ranking in terms of they should like track how many games you've won actually and how many times you've been eliminated and how many times you've lost and pair it up against similar people. But who do I know? What do I know? I'm just a guy playing the game.
I mean, yeah,
Couldn't hurt to try. Um, they also back to the waypoint update. We keep jumping in and out of it. The True Light emblem. I ended up putting this on at one point, and it says apparently nearly 50% of all players equip the emblem at some point, which is awesome. If you don't know the story behind this, I don't remember the exact specifics, but I'm pretty sure someone's 2 children whose initials are in this constellation ended up dying from something. What was it? Do you remember? I feel really bad that
um,
I don't know what it is.
let's see. This was back in February because I'm reading the article they linked to in the update.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I'm reading right now. I pulled it
last
up.
month, last month we learned about a community member's tragic loss. Adam, aka the CRZ Spartan.
The
Apologies
crazed
if I
Spartan without
mispronounced
an A.
that.
Yeah.
And his wife Rebecca lost their daughters, Trinity and Lena, when their lives were claimed by an electrical fire in their family home. So
So
it's
this is tribute to the 2 daughters who died in that fire.
right. And fun fact, I think it's probably also mentioned in that same article. Yeah, as a matter of fact, last paragraph. As well, we have included a special feature in our new arena map, Torque. As
Hmm.
players look up and scan the stars above, the names Trinity and Lena will be visible in the night sky.
Hmm.
I saw it for the first time when I loaded up the map in a custom game to check it out for myself shortly after it came out, and it's actually very cool. I think it's a little nice touch that 343 did to recognize someone who is going through a tough time during their or for their game.
Hmm.
So
So yeah, that's definitely a cool story. The whole reason I put the emblem on is because I learned that background story. I just got the emblem, I was like, oh, that looks neat. I like my emblem better, and then I learned it was a tribute, and I was like, well, I'll definitely pay respects. So if you end
all
up
right,
getting it, equip it for a couple rounds. It's
it's
the
very cool.
least you could do.
Yep.
Then they sit down and talk a lot about Griffball, and we've talked so much about it that I don't want to really dig into this in terms of how much time we have left and other stuff. But if
It's
you're interested in Forge,
yeah.
Knockyard, who knows a lot about Forge, goes into a lot of detail in terms of like Forge and the progression of it.
From scanning over it, it looks like it's interviewing him about the current map that is in matchmaking.
And how he scaled. He made an Avalanche remake or Sidewinder remake if you're a Halo 1 person.
Avalanche and Sidewinder are 2 different maps, obviously, but
Well, Avalanche was a remake of Sidewinder.
really,
Yeah.
hmm,
Ha ha ha.
did not know that.
You learned something today.
I did indeed.
So yeah, that goes through that because he built it in like an Avalanche remake, which is cool. Avalanche is a good big team battle map. And then
Loved it.
there is their they highlight this map called Eladris, which I actually haven't watched this, but I have been watching a lot of Halo 5 like Forge videos where they walk through like certain maps, and it's pretty freaking sweet. It's made me want to make a map, and then I sit down and try it, and then I'm like within 5 minutes, like I don't know what I want to do, and I give up. But motivation. And then I feel like they've stopped including videos for the play of the week and just link to them, which is kind of lame to be honest. I don't know why they're doing that. But that is, I am not going to click on any of these links and pull them up in this chat or in the stream, but they've stopped doing the videos where I can actually see them or the like the GIFs where you could see them. And these are actually GIFs, and that's what's even funnier. They don't even put the GIFs embedded anymore. So I don't understand the logic behind that. But that
Yeah,
is,
small things.
yeah, that is the Waypoint update. And we got a couple more minutes here. We're going to run through this week at Bungie to just kind of hit on everything they've been doing with Destiny. And it's there's nothing really too much to highlight from this, which is why I obviously budgeted 5 seconds of time to talk about it. But um, you can watch the ride along where they tour the Dreadnought and talk about a lot of different things in relation to it. Um,
Which I caught that the other day when it was on Twitch.
right, I was going to
If
ask
you
you because I
if
know
you
you saw it.
have, I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes, somewhere around that
Hmm.
time frame. If you have that time to spare, I would definitely give it a watch because um, it's interesting to hear where they drew their inspiration behind certain areas of the Dreadnought, and every now and then they show concept art for areas of it, and it's interesting to see how it changes. Like they showed one piece for the Court of Oryx, which in game right now it's rather small,
Hmm.
but their concept art looked like it was a huge platform. So it's interesting to see how much it changed. I like the concept art over the actual Court of Oryx, though. So,
Okay, that's cool. I might take a couple minutes to take a peek at that. Just skim through it, like
oh
fast
yeah,
forwarding. But if you have, like you said, an hour and about 20 minutes or so, give it a peek. I'm sure you'll learn something very interesting. Like I said last week, it's about like the design and stuff, like he mentioned. And Freak Show again, obligatory Freak Show mention, like we always say. He told me what the YouTube channel's series was called that I was trying to mention. Forgot it's called Digressing and Side Questing on the
oh,
Game Theorist channel. That's what it's called. I couldn't remember the name of it last week. I just remembered side questing was in the name. It's called Digressing and Side Questing. So there you go.
I'll have to give that a check.
It's a pretty sweet one. Trust me. Next week on Twitch, they're going towards what did they say they were doing? I already forgot. The audio team. That's what it was.
Audio team, which I'm really curious to uh, see that one because I want to know how they got some of the sounds for some of the exotic weapons.
It's pretty interesting to hear a lot of those stories. Like, do you know how they got the sound for like the Star Wars blaster rays?
No, I do not.
If story and legend holds true, the guy who was recording it climbed up on top of like a building up into like one of those radio antennas and took a hammer and just mashed on it and like recorded it. So what
Well,
you're hearing is some dude's super dedication to climbing buildings and hitting their antennas with a hammer. If
that
that
is
holds
interesting.
true, that's what I was
That
always
is,
told.
I hope it is. I hope it does hold true because that is like the best way to get any sort of sound effect.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then the main thing to take far away from this whole thing, besides the interesting Twitch streams that they do, is hot patch. What was it? 2.1.1.3,
Yeah, hotfix 2.1.1.3.
which is all about the Crucible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna scroll down a little bit so you can see it. Um,
Basically, starting on Tuesday, March 8th, every Guardian who plays Destiny will download and install hotfix 2.1.1.3. I think we've been over that before.
mm,
It'll
totally.
be a vehicle that will deliver the newest matchmaking settings to every playlist in the Crucible. Damage Referee will also be applied across the board to help us mitigate the effects that low quality connections have on combat. Doesn't set in stone, doesn't say anything in stone. In fact, it will give our teams better tools to deploy changes like this in the future. So basically, a lot of back end maintenance too. They're doing sounds like.
Yeah, it
Um,
does seem like that.
it makes mention. I don't know if it's actually changes they're making, but it makes mention that their first and foremost concerns when finding matches in the Crucible is connection quality. So it's going to prioritize finding the lowest latency matches, lag latency. And then secondary concern is the skill base of the skill curve, actually. So skill, kind of like the CSR in Halo. But they do not prioritize skill over connection under any circumstances. So I don't know if it's changes or if it's just like this is how we do it right now. I'll let you
Mhm.
guys be the judge of that.
And they're also implementing damage referee into every playlist for Crucible, right? For the
Yeah,
Crucible. Yeah, okay.
yeah. Damage referee will also be applied across the board.
Yeah, and we wanted to talk about that briefly. We're short on time, so we'll have to make it quick. But
Go.
essentially, I share the same concerns Grunt does, and Grunt has more concerns about it just because he doesn't have the best internet in the world. And the main concern being, will this make people who just don't have a good quality connection worse at the game or worse off because they can't pay for a better connection?
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind. I can't say for sure what it does because I don't experience it typically, or I have been and have been getting kicked from every game that I've tried to get into recently. Who knows?
Basically, from when they describe it, what it does is it's supposed to um, be the game's way of managing people that have terrible connections being um, so immune to damage. If you see a guy that's standing still on the map and you go to shoot them and you load like an entire auto rifle clip or whatever into them and they don't die, clearly that person is lagging. And they're somewhere else on the map and they're not showing it to you, or the game's not showing it to you because you're lagging or they're lagging, whatever. But it's basically the person that is lagging is supposed to die quicker.
Yeah, I have definitely had games where it seemed like the person who was lagging had more of an advantage than I did.
Right. So
Which
my
it
biggest
shouldn't be that way, but
no, the way they intended it's supposed to work is the exact opposite. So
hmm
my biggest concern with it is I make fun of my internet connection for being bad, but it really isn't that bad
hmm
because I can play the Crucible by myself just fine with no problems. My dad can play the Crucible fine with just a few problems, mainly because of the way our second Xbox is connected. You know, it has a little bit more traffic running wirelessly.
hmm
But when him and I try to play it together, then one of us is always lagging. So it's weird how it does that. And with the damage referee, it's kind of made it nearly impossible, or at least taking the enjoyment out of it for him and I to play the Crucible together. And that was my biggest concern from the start when I first read about that. I'm like, oh, great, this is going to happen. It kind of has happened.
hmm
I haven't necessarily noticed the damage referee affecting me that much. And there's several times where I've also taken a rocket directly to the face, and I'm pretty sure I should be dead, but I haven't died.
Yeah,
So I'm just gonna, just shrug and wonder why that happened.
mm,
Maybe damage referee was working in my favor that time.
could have been. I just know, unfortunately, until everybody gets the greatest internet ever and latency is finally destroyed, which will never happen, we'll never have a truly perfect connection to a game.
Right.
It's pessimistic to say that, but it's just the truth. I mean,
It's
if
really
everybody
yeah.
had
It's
fiber optics, it would be much faster and you really wouldn't notice it. I mean, it's going to get to the point of where you'd have to be a robot paying attention to microseconds to actually pick it up eventually with the speed we would get to. But with fiber optics, you wouldn't notice just because of how fast fiber is.
right.
Which, by the way, if you don't know how fast fiber optics is just a laser.
The laser.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of delivering data through like wires, it's just a light. It beams light through a glass tube, and that's the data. Which light travels very fast.
This has been your science lesson on Frantic Talks.
Yeah. And if you want to know how fast light is, if I remember correctly, it can travel around the world 7.5 times per second. Or in other words, our data could go around the world pretty
Boom.
freaking fast. In other words, you wouldn't notice it if we all had fiber optics, but that's expensive and infrastructure and blah blah blah. Coax cables are existing and whatever. That's not the point. The point being, it'll be a bit before we get to the point of where we can truly not have lag
Right.
and it be
I
cost
mean,
effective.
according to Brock, just go live in Japan. Japan has great internet connections.
Yep, Brock just mentioned Japan. having good
So,
internet. That doesn't surprise me. All right, well, I think that covers just about everything. I want to mention Magic for 5 seconds just to point it out. They started spoiling the new. You're counting me down. They started spoiling the new set Shadows over Innistrad, which is a return to a set that debuted back in. I have a card right in front of me. 2011, 2012ish. Actually, the card I have in front of me is from Dark Ascension, which is the second set. I'm going to show it on screen. It's Faithless Looting. So around that area. So it's 5 years old at this point, which is old. It's really surprising to me how old it is, considering that was a couple years into my Magic career. Blah blah blah. It's been 5 seconds, but they are starting to spoil it. If you're interested in seeing that, you can go to Reddit or you can go to mythicspoiler.com. That's where I find all my spoilers. And you can also go to the magic.wizard site, which they have this like really cool interactive map where you can go to different locations where they're spoiling cards at certain points in time. It's kind of a unique way to do it compared to their other way of here's a Twitter picture. So,
oh, totally better.
so yeah.
Here's a picture we posted on Twitter. There, we spoiled that card for you.
All right.
Thanks. No build
So,
up, no nothing.
nothing. Ooh, retweets, yeah. So things to keep your eye on for next week. Grunt's Black Spindle Guide.
Ooh,
Ooh.
what?
Yeah, that might be coming here soon. I will say that it is finished, and I've read through it, and it's pretty freaking sweet. Other than that, I will not tell you when it's coming, but it will be soon. I'm excited for that. And then I believe I said it last week and the week before and the week before, but I probably will be writing a Magic post here soon. I have like 5 ideas in my head. Problem is they're still in my head. And
That
other
is a little
than
bit of a problem.
yeah, and other than that, pay attention to the Nuzlocke. I'm going to be releasing the episode 8 today or tomorrow. I really don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's today. Yeah, it's definitely today. And that is a very interesting episode. Lots of stuff happens that episode. And then episode 9 will come out Monday. Wednesday will be 10, etc., etc. It's every 2 days at this point. So keep an eye on that if you're still interested in that. That's Pokemon, by the way, if you don't know what a Nuzlocke is. If you don't know what a Nuzlocke is, Google it. I don't want to go through it.
Or just go watch the first video.
Or watch the
Where you
first video
explain it all.
where I explain all of it in like 5 seconds. So, all right, that does it for us. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, I'm at FranticJ3. He's at Onyx Spartan, and you can follow the Frantic Talks Twitter account at Frantic_Talks. And as always, you can find us at frantictalks.com or magic.frantictalks.com for all your Magic the Gathering needs. Actually, it won't have any needs for you. It'll just talk about cards. I don't sell cards to you. So yeah. Other than that, I hope you guys will tune in next week. It's every Saturday at 3 p.m. on twitch.tv/FranticJ3 the third with the number 3RD instead of spelling out third because some bastard took Frantic J3
Curse you.
every time. Every damn time. Well,
Also,
anyways, yeah.
next week's episode is going to be totally awesome for reasons you'll find out next week.
I was going to mention it, but I kept quiet. I know exactly what it is, but I'm not going to say it.
No,
Not allowed
suspense.
to say it.
Suspense.
All the suspense.
You have to tune in next week.
Bring candy. I'm going to have candy. Chocolate ghosts.
I'll have my coffee here, so.
There you go. I'll have my sparkling water.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, man. All right. Grunt will remember that. All right, guys. I'm Frantic.
I'm Grunt.
See you guys next time.